Colorado and Nebraska are intriguing teams in 2024 for different reasons, and both teams really need a win in week two. And unfortunately, only one of them is going to do that, but that's what makes this game so interesting. Now, Colorado got their season off to a 1-0 start, but it was a 31-26 win that maybe they would have liked to have been a little bit more in their favor. But they learned some things, and I think that we've seen some improvements in certain areas, but there also are some questions. Nebraska got their season off to a 40-7 win to get to 1-0. But again, you don't really learn a ton from some of these week one games, and you can't put a ton of stock into those games, but also the fact that the line is what it is says a lot about what we expect from both teams. Now, Colorado is an explosive team that can put up points in a hurry. We saw that in week one, but we also saw that Nebraska appears to have found their guy in Dylan Raiola, and that's really intriguing as well. The quarterback matchup could be really fun to watch, but there are a lot of other matchups that will dictate this game as well. Now, again, Colorado, I think everybody is paying attention to them by default. And that's a good thing. That means you're marketing yourself well, you're relevant in the college football conversation. Even if you had, the year they had last year, there's honestly a lot still to talk about, but winning football games is what's going to keep you in the spotlight. And one of the biggest things for Colorado is going to be, can they address the week one issues? Yes, you had explosive plays from Travis Hunter and Jimmy Horn. Shedeur Sanders looked really good, still has some times where he is maybe hanging on the ball for too long. But I think that overall, he is a smart decision maker who has proven that he is going to make plays even under pressure. And one of those issues was the fact that he was under pressure a lot. The offensive line maybe is better than it was last year, but they also still gave up a lot of pressure to an NDSU team that is going to be a really good FCS team. But again, Colorado is not in the business of competing with the FCS team. The Buffs are trying to be a good FBS team, a good Big 12 team. And you're not going to do that if you're letting teams like NDSU hang around. That being said, you have some promise in the offensive line. It's just a matter of how much promise is there and how successful can they be against a Nebraska front that is going to give them a lot of challenges. I think the other thing too is if there's a mobile quarterback, this maybe doesn't apply here, but in the future, it could be a problem. Cam Miller gave them quite a bit of issues in week one, and that could be a problem going forward. Although you did see some improvements up front, you saw a defensive line that I think is a massive upgrade from what we saw last year. But at the same time, getting Cam Miller down was a struggle for this team at times. The question for Nebraska is, will the offense keep them in this game? With Dylan Raiola, we saw what could be and what the future might look like. But what if their defense isn't keeping Colorado off of out of the end zone, I should say? What if this defense is struggling? Now, I don't think that's very likely, but this is also a Colorado team that is very capable of putting points in a hurry. And last year we saw this Nebraska team, even with a really bad offense, keep themselves in the game because of their defense. Is the offense going to take a step forward? So it's really more of, have we seen an upgrade at that group? Have we seen an improvement in that unit? And part of that is going to be the passing attack. Raiola plays a big role there. But when you look at what Colorado has in terms of defensive backs, Travis Hunter is going to be someone to keep an eye on every single week that Colorado is playing a game. Now, Isaiah Nayor and Jamal Banks are going to be guys that face him. You have DJ McKinney also is going to line up opposite of Hunter, and that's a matchup that probably dictates how successful Nebraska is at throwing the football, and then also dictates how balanced this group is offensively. And that's something that Colorado really wants to slow down because the rushing attack appears to be solid for Nebraska, but if they can't slow down this passing attack, if the passing attack can't get going for Nebraska, that's really what determines their success offensively. Now, it appears that they have a good start, but again, it's one game. You have a very different set of opponents that you'll face if you're Nebraska's wide receivers. and you're facing a guy in Travis Hunter that some believe could be the top pick in the 2025 NFL draft. And he is definitely a player to keep an eye on simply because he is a really good player on both sides of the ball. It doesn't matter if he plays wide receiver. It does not matter if he plays defensive back. He is going to give this Nebraska team plenty of trouble, and everyone knows that. Matt Rule and his staff aren't unaware of who Travis Hunter is. They saw him last year. They know what he's capable of doing. That being said, you're also going to see if they can scheme away from him or find ways to limit his explosiveness offensively. And Nebraska has plenty of talent to be able to make that happen, but it's going to be tough. Travis Hunter is that good, and he is really fun to watch. Shedeur Sanders is another player that could be a potential top 5 pick if he plays really well. Again, you'd like to see him get a little bit more time to throw in the pocket because he has explosive weapons. You saw Travis Hunter do that. You saw Jimmy Horn do that. You have plenty of options, and you'd like to see the rushing attack take a step forward. Obviously, you didn't need the rushing attack to do a ton to win that football game, but you also would have liked to win that game a little bit more comfortably. Now, Dalen Hayden comes in from Ohio State. You brought him in to be a force at running back, and that just didn't happen last week. Now, again, it's one game, so let's not overreact. But you also need to see this group take a step forward, and he is going to be part of that. Offensive line, I cannot emphasize enough, has to play better than it did last week. DJ McKinney, we talked about him. Him and Travis Hunter have a big impact on this game if they're able to shut down Nebraska's passing attack, and that could swing things in their favor if they're able to step up. But again, they are not part of the problem. They are part of the solution. The other aspects of Colorado's game are going to be big impacts on what this result ends up being. Now, for Nebraska, everybody's got their eyes on Dylan Raiola. It's going to be a season in which we look at him and see what he's capable of doing. So far, it's looked pretty good. One game in, you have over 70% completion percentage, 238 yards, and 2 touchdowns in what was a short debut, but that's good. Now you face a Colorado team that's going to give him a chance to see what really good talent is at corner. You're also going to see plenty of NFL talent, and that's going to help him learn how quickly he needs to acclimate to the college football world. And it's going to be fun. I think that he is a fierce competitor who is ready for that challenge. And I am really excited to see how he handles this adversity. And joining him in that battle is going to be a set of skill position players that are really fun to watch. Emmett Johnson is just one of the running backs that we'll keep an eye on. Dante Dowdle is another one that will be a big time player for this team. And then the passing attack as well. We talked about Isaiah Nair coming in from Texas and former Wyoming transfer as well. He plays a big role in this offense. Jamal Banks, that was an underrated addition in the transfer portal, in my opinion. He is someone that could have a big impact as well. This offense, I think, is going to be the big X factor for this Nebraska team until further notice. We know what the defense is capable of. It's just a matter of if the offense can do its part. Ty Robinson and Nash Hutmacher are going to play a big role up front because, again, with Colorado having so many struggles up front, this defensive line and the linebackers for that matter for Nebraska could have a big impact. If they're able to be disruptive and get this Colorado team off of the field offensively, then you feel pretty good about your chances in this game. Picking a winner is tough because on one hand, it seems like Nebraska is maybe the more consistent team in terms of what to expect. But you also have to keep in mind that Colorado won this game last year. So that's something you have to put some stock into. And also the Buffs upgraded through the transfer portal. They still have Travis Hunter. They still have Shedeur Sanders. If Dylan Raiola plays well, I like Nebraska's chances. I like their chance to win this game. But if he is going to struggle, then Colorado is definitely a team that can take that and run with it. And if they're creating explosive plays, and Nebraska doesn't have a way to slow them down, then you're feeling a little bit more favorable towards Buffs. Now, the fact that Nebraska is favored by 7 tells me something. That's an interesting line. And again, it all starts up front. If Nebraska is able to be disruptive and Colorado has to ditch its running game once again, you feel like that favors Nebraska. That's an underrated group with one of the more underrated, slept on defenses that you don't really talk about a ton. and that'll be really interesting. But if the Buffs are creating explosive plays, then you have to really like what the Buffs can do in terms of winning this football game. I'd probably lean with Nebraska right now, but again, I'm intrigued to see what the Buffs can do, what Deion Sanders has up his sleeve for this game. But at the same time, Nebraska is a team that's looking to bounce back as well, and that's what makes this game so intriguing.